So hello everybody, so I'm Michael Rollet, I am CTO at ATEM. ATEM is a video compression company. So here I will present what we are doing inside AV1. So for the video compression with film grain aesthetic preservation. So AV1 is a good codec for that. I will explain why. We were doing also some film grain preservation in loop with previous encoders, and I will explain the difference in between what we are getting right now and what we were having with the previous codecs. So I will continue with the presentation. So on this slide, I will speak about why we are speaking about grain, because we have legacy grain coming from the camera itself, and it's also artistic intent. So people may like it or not, but people want grain. So in the end, they want to preserve the grain. And the grain is not likely to be compressible. So AV1 has a very unique feature compared to the other standard. Why is that? Because they have the film grain synthesis. So that's not a feature that is new in the sense that it was also available in the past, but that's the first time that it is normative and mandatory for the end-to-end delivery devices, meaning that if you use it at the encoder, the decoder needs to use it as well. So it has been highly recommended by Netflix, and Netflix has a lot of grainy content. The gain might be huge, and I will explain that. FGS was previously available in previous standards, so AVC and HEVC through SEIs, and but in this particular case, when you are using SEI, it can be partially supported by the decoders. So just to come back on AV1. AV1 is a royalty-free codec. It has been, so in October 2018, we can see this participant that was part of the alliance. So mainly at first, it was designed by web browsers company like Mozilla, Microsoft, Google, and then people like Netflix, Amazon, and others was joining the alliance. So you have the GAFAs that are part of it. So AV1 is the first codec of the alliance. So for AOM Video Codec 1, they are currently working on AV2, on the second generation. So the alliance is has the goal of having interoperable format, and their goal is to have it open for the open source, and also as an open specification. It has been mainly optimized for OTT delivery by the sense that it has been mainly optimized for web browsers at first to be able to display content in the web browsers without to pay any fees to any other video codec. It has high quality and real-time delivery modes. It can go up to 20% with regards to the state of the art. And it can go from low to high resolution, so that was quite important for them. It includes also for the very first time HDR and vehicular gamut for the very first version of a standard. So compared to HEVC that was not coming at first with it, with HDR, AV1 is coming directly with HDR. So it has a classical structure for a video codec, so nothing new on this side. But it adds to some new coding tools, and it also adds additional features like film grain synthesis, what I will be speaking about, scalability, and screen content coding. On the codec structure itself, I will compare HEVC versus AV1. So HEVC is going from 64 by 64 to 8 by 8, while AV1 is going from 128 by 128 to 4 by 4. It has a rather similar coding structure, so on the side of HEVC is a quad-tree coding structure, on the side of the AV1 is a recursive tree coding structure. And when you look at the patterns, they look very similar. In the case of the prediction units, So it has multiple size forms, and in the terms of transform units, it's using square not separable transform units. In the case of AV1, we have also multiple sizes for the prediction unit, and we also have something that is rather similar. It has rectangular separable transform units. We have more intra-prediction in the case of AV1 than HEVC, and we also have something that is a bit different in terms of MVs, but that's using something that is rather similar in both codecs. On the film grain synthesis process, so I will speak about the encoder and the decoder. So at the encoder side, we denoise the input image. On the denoised image, we put that in front of the encoder. We do the grain parameter computation between the input image and the denoised image. We got some grain parameters that we inject inside the encoder. So it's just parameter that will go. So it's a small number of bytes that will go into the bit streams. On the decoder side, so we got the decoded image without the grain. Then we compute, so we extract the grain parameters. We extract the grain synthesis from the grain parameters. We apply the grain image on top of the decoded image, and we have the output image. So it's a straightforward idea, but it's rather challenging. On the denoising and the modeling, so we can use a two-step denoising, either RAF plus a fine denoising, or pre-analysis plus a fine denoising. So to come back, so the denoising is doing the comparison in between the input image and the denoised image. So the denoised image, then for computing the grain parameter computation, you do that in between the input image and the denoised image. So the denoised image may be different from the pre-analysis that you are doing. So then the grain parameter computation might be different. So the denoised image is more important for the encoder than for the grain parameters computation. So on a given pixel x, ij, we compute that on the previous pixels from the left and previous pixels from the top, where we apply phi1 to phi p, that are the parameters of the model, and epsilon for this particular pixel ij, that is an additive white Gaussian noise with a standard deviation sigma. Here I will present the computation of the auto-regression coefficient, phi1 to phi p. So it's we will use a ridge regression, that is an ordinary least square estimation with a constraint on the sum of the squared coefficient. So lambda square multiplied by the Euclidean distance of phi at square control the autoregression coefficients and guarantees the unicity of the solution or the white noise. So phi is the solution of the linear system where A transpose A plus lambda square identity all by phi is equal to A transpose B, where A is equal to A1 to AM is a vector from A1 to AM, and B is a vector from B1 to BM. The advantages is that taking lambda high enough, the scheme is guaranteed to be stationary. Taking lambda high enough, the coefficients are less than 2. With this particular method, you can get some unpleasing patterns. So you see on the left some patterns that will happen that may happen on the video when you select a patch in the model. And you will go to select almost always the same patch, so you are seeing regular patterns on the left. It can happen by design, so that's something that can happen. So this, we want to avoid it, and we want to detect them. So that's what we are having on the right, and this is what we are doing inside the encoder at the moment. So here I will speak about the compression gains. So we use three different content, so Chimera, Zombie, and EBU. We use different value for the same video quality. So the quality here we are using our own encoder. So the quality is tagged by the number. So 112, 118 is the same quality level. For EBU it's 85 and 90. So we use exactly the same quality level for both. So we do use a quality level where the grain is well preserved, and a quality level that isn't so far where the grain is not well preserved. And you can see a huge difference in between the two. So for instance, on EBU, we have 20 megabits per second, while at a lower quality, we have 10 megabits per second. If we compare that to the film grain synthesis, on the film grain synthesis, we can get 10 megabits per second for the same video quality, but we will preserve better the grain, even better than the previous one, and we can achieve 50% gain on this particular video. When we lower the video quality and we have a washed out video for this particular video, we can have 6 megabits per second for the same video quality, where we can get 40% improvement compared to the original content. But here we are preserving the gains, the grain, so the results is a bit different. So I will use here some parts of the reconstructed frames where I can focus on the grain preservation. So on the left we have the content with encoded in loop. On the right we have the content that are encoded with the film grain synthesis. So we use 27% less on the first video content, and you can see that we are preserving better the video content. And on the right, we use even more, 40% less bitrate than on the left, but we are also preserving better the video content. On those two slides, we present two versions, one where we compare the latest version that we did, and the previous one where we were doing also some grain preservation. And it's quite important to notice that now we are more close to the source. So that's the first result that we are having for the first slide. And on the second slide, we have something that is rather similar, is that we are getting something that is really closer to the source with a better synthesis of the noise of the grain on the second version. So considering dedicated features like film grain synthesis, so it's still an ongoing effort. So we have put several patents in the integration of this technology. We have also we are also planning some research papers in terms of interoperability and practical tests. So we have used LGTV. So we can already test with it, and we have also used STB from Broadcom. So we can already use some AV1 8K HDR plus grain. So it's we have some compatible TV sets that are already available, and it's really a differentiating feature for VOD operator. So if you have any questions, please feel free to ask.